Hello everybody and welcome back to the best reactions. Today we are reflecting on the Qatar Grand Prix. I thought this was going to be the worst set of memes you could possibly imagine with how the whole race weekend had been panning out, how it was really dull racing. I thought most of it was just going to be us falling asleep. And then McLaren went, you know what everybody? You can all have content. Everybody. We can look forward to Abu Dhabi with a championship decider, and we can, yes, talk about certain things that happened during the race in Qatar. So let's get into the top 10. They were good. P10, Teevesy. Thought I'd start with some positivity around Ferrari. Man who thought he'd lost all hope loses his last additional bit of hope he didn't even know he still had. It's really sad, actually. You know, this is obviously a joke. It's a meme. But the Ferrari situation, especially with Charles Leclerc, Hamilton is, of course, you know, a very sad story in itself, and how he went over to this team dreaming of a world championship and then being knocked out in Q1. But for Charles Leclerc as well, you know, he's driving the absolute wheels off that car. I have no doubt. Maybe that's my slight bias showing. But I believe he's doing absolutely all he can in that Ferrari. And he cannot get anything out of it. He's not even close to a podium at the moment. And just hearing his interviews, it's really sad to hear both sides of the garage just absolutely depressed at the situation Ferrari currently find themselves in. They have got to do some big changes into 2026, otherwise it won't be our year. P9, the Criz. Toto sneaking in titanium dioxide to the Qatar GP for Kimi. Of course, again, if you don't know this meme, I have said it a few times, but it's an insane amount of context you need for this. Essentially, anytime titanium dioxide is not banned in a country, Kimi Antonelli does really well. This is, of course, where it is banned in Qatar, but then Kimi put in a pretty good performance, barring, of course, the mistake on the penultimate lap, but overall beat George Russell in the race by 20 seconds. Now, I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about Kimi Antonelli and the social media abuse that he has received because of the fact he made a mistake and let Lando Norris through. That is what happened. It is utterly unacceptable for a rookie. This guy is a kid. He's a young talent to receive a barrage of abuse around the fact that he could have potentially given the position to Lando because there's this Mercedes engine tie. Mercedes would not want McLaren to win the world championship. They wouldn't. It looks terrible for them. They make the engine. They don't want a customer team winning the world championship. They don't. So there's no reason for them to have made this call to Kimi, which did not happen. There's no sus team radio to suggest that Kimi Antonelli would have listened to his team pit wall and moved over for Lando or made a mistake on purpose. He did not. You know, they're fighting for second in the constructors. Toto said this. Of course, this did not help due to the fact of GP coming over the team radio and essentially saying that Kimi let Lando past, which, you know, it's a dangerous narrative to set. Then you had Helmut Marko waffling on about the fact that, again, sort of doubling down on what GP had said and basically accusing Kimi Antonelli of moving over for Lando. What race are they watching? Now, apparently it's clear that it's been settled, and Red Bull have even issued a statement to say that it was incorrect to even suggest that Kimi Antonelli moved out of the way on purpose. But, you know, in this day and age, just leave the drivers alone. And also, you know, Red Bull had a responsibility to they had a part to play, and it's a shame to see that Kimi received all of that because he did not deserve it. He drove his heart out to try and stay in P4 and made a mistake. Simple as. P8 F1_Ind1 season so bad. The weather is nice. How have we got two memes about Ferrari in a weekend and in a race that we're reflecting on where McLaren made the biggest blunder that I can remember on a strategic level? But hey, maybe we'll get into it. It's a top 10. But yes, the weather is nice. That was an utterly devastating Lewis Hamilton interview to watch. Maybe Ferrari will have a reasonable ending in Abu Dhabi, but I'm not holding out much hope. Okay, I need to share this video with you. It's, of course, not in the top 10, but it is an absolutely amazing video. It's not the first one that's come out either about this. I'm a massive dog lover. You know, I've got a dog with my partner, Ellie, Bruno, absolute legend. And I love golden retrievers as well. You know, Bruno is a working cocker spaniel, but the golden retrievers are the ones that absolutely hold a dear place in my heart. I grew up with them with my grandparents. And this video is the cutest thing you will ever see. We're not obviously only going to be able to show screenshots of it. You should definitely go and check it out. But essentially, the golden retriever reacts to the Max Verstappen national anthem, the Dutch national anthem, the F1 outro as we call it, reacts to it by literally sleeping. As soon as they hear it, stands up, starts wagging the tail, goes to find the toy. That golden retriever is a Max Verstappen fan, and it is just so adorable to watch. P7, Radicchio. For the second race running, insert McLaren driver's name. He's chasing you down. Max took it personally. To be honest with you, Max didn't do... This meme isn't as strong just purely because Max was being caught by Oscar. Of course, Oscar was driving quali laps over and over and over because, well, he could literally push that McLaren to the ends of the earth and really go for it with the strategy, if you can call it, that McLaren put him on. But Max won the race. Max won the race. He beat the McLarens that are so fast around here. Still hasn't processed. P6, Inferno the Fox. Choo-choo all aboard the Alonso train. Fernando Alonso saved McLaren's blushes even more. I am absolutely convinced. George Russell went a second a lap quicker the minute he got into clean air. Alonso, I'm surprised to see just how slow he was going. Like, there was some mad references to Spygate and things like that in the commentary, which I thought was, you know, I don't think the Spanish side of social media has taken that at all well, and I don't blame them. Madness to think that Alonso was trying to do McLaren a favour, but the fact that he was going as slow as he was questionable. Not questionable in the sense of, oh, is he slowing down? But more the fact, where was the race pace for Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso? Because they looked so quick and so good for most of the weekend. But as soon as we got to Sunday, he was very much in tyre conservation mode. But either or, it was a big old Alonso train. Honourable mentions. Okay, we got a lot to get through because your memes were fantastic and there were a lot of them and I wanted to include as many as I could. Starweaver 1999, the sprint, the first 8 laps of the race. And then the rest of the race after that as well. Not because we actually saw anything or any kind of overtakes really. It was just the fact of having a slower car, Max Verstappen and that Red Bull, in first place. And the two McLarens, of course, just seeing where they could get and how far up the order they could get. It was essentially a time trial. But I thoroughly enjoyed it because it doesn't necessarily matter about the overtakes. It just matters about the not knowing what could happen over the rest of the race. And I have to thank McLaren for that. Thank you. Chris_HNT, Ollie getting 5 points finishes in a row versus Ollie after a bad pit stop. He absolutely destroyed that steering wheel. Didn't really. Pretty robust, but he was hammering away at that steering wheel after the pit stop under the safety car. Not happy at all. And look, Ollie could have maybe been on around the sort of points finish, maybe 1 point. He was fighting in that area and it didn't go well. And of course, after that, no overtaking allowed in Qatar. F1_Friends 2023. Oscar won the soft tyre. McLaren. I don't care. I thought Oscar was going to go onto the soft tyre in that final stint. Felt like there was enough laps to really... That was the only way he was going to close down Max Verstappen, was going on a tyre that is 2 steps softer and praying to God that it stays in some kind of working window until the end of the race. But hard tyres it was. Milkshake5303, you can't defeat me. I know, but she can. Oh, Hannah, she cooked. And look, I know it was very obvious to us as Formula One fans to make that pit stop, but Red Bull and Hannah, they had to make that decision. They were the first driver to come into the pits. Oscar stayed out, and they committed to going in. Still can't believe Lando didn't follow Max in, but you know, McLaren, they got to keep it fair, haven't they? They've got to keep it fair. But it was a great strategy call because had the other teams not pit, then Max would have been stuck in a lot of traffic. But every sort of logical reasoning would suggest that teams would take a free pit stop. And they were right. John05 John, did Ferrari fire the wrong driver? No. Charles Leclerc should not have been fired in any realm. It should not have been a Carlos Sainz Lewis Hamilton lineup. If anything, you could argue, and I think very easily argue, that Sainz and Leclerc would have done a better job just keeping the Ferrari lineup as it was. But I can also understand why Ferrari would hire Lewis Hamilton. He's got some pretty good records going. Turn to page 394 when Matt predicts a Max win and it comes true. Oh, look, it's Tommy. I receive happiness. You receive predictions championship. But not really. I backed Max the entire way, and the only thing that came in was the Max win, which was the most, out of the blue, unexpected victory when we came into this weekend. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get predictions championship, but Tommy may well receive happiness come the end of Abu Dhabi. Last Kit W. Hamilton has 0 podiums and is feeling depressed. How do you feel about it? Signs, none of my business. Now, this is a great meme. One, because it is, and the template, and we love that. But also, if you haven't seen Carlos Sainz was asked this exact thing, this isn't just a meme that's been created out of someone's brain. Carlos was absolutely adamant that Ted Kravitz need to go and have a look at the sipping Kermit meme. So, there it is. It's come to life. OC_F1_memes. You have 0 podiums in this season. The guy who replaced you has 2. The rookie who has replaced you has 3. Look, a lot of you are basking in the Ferrari, depression session that we're currently in. It's been the entire season, if I'm being completely honest with you. The start of 2026 is absolutely enormous to kind of understand what will happen for Lewis Hamilton moving forward. I genuinely believe that if he struggles at the start of 2026, could well be his last season. It's sad to see because a lot of people quite rightly believe he should be an 8-time world champion due to what happened in Abu Dhabi, and you know what happened in 2021. I don't want to see Hamilton bow out like this. No chance. Please, Hamilton needs a decent season, getting a few victories, podiums, and then Charles Leclerc can be world champion. Cool. Not_Wymere J, a reusable meme for next week too. Nominations for Bottle of the Year Award. P1 Matt Bottle, P1 Tommy Bottle, and the P1 Constructors Champions Bottle. It's pretty creative. I definitely can see that. I love that you've just got screenshots of me and Tommy drinking out of a bottle. But look, McLaren, they need to just get their act together for Abu Dhabi. Just do a normal strategy and use your brain cells, and Lando Norris will be world champion. Taco Plane 91. Max at the end of the Qatar GP be like. How did we get here? How did we get here? And the thing is as well, we're talking about the 104 points. That was to Oscar Piastri. Max Verstappen was 104 points behind Oscar Piastri. Max is now ahead of Oscar in the World Championship. Would you be able to believe that if you were told that, into the last race, Max would be ahead of Oscar? Utterly unbelievable. Bradley McBrad, McLaren strategy team. Look, leave Ferrari alone now. Okay, this episode is turning into a lot of Ferrari slander, and yes, we are not very good. I mean, we are terrible at the moment, but the strategy, we have not had any limelight on us, therefore we don't know if the strategy has been bad over the last few races, maybe. But I will say, they pit. McLaren did not. Ferrari pit. So they get a tick in that box. Mr. Bear 15. The whole house in the pit. That was chaotic. Very chaotic indeed. Not too bad, actually, in the end, considering everybody dived into the pits. But yeah, we always knew the chaos was coming. It's controversial opinion time. Tommy is here, the penultimate. Tommy's controversial opinion. I'm getting upset. I'm getting sad. I can't believe. I know. I won't be able to hear more of these. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm getting delirious near the end of the season. The controversial opinion that you have brought to the table is from Rick Dangerous. McLaren's Qatar fumble actually benefited Lando as he still leads by 12 points, and now his nearest rival isn't a teammate.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about McLaren benefiting Lando and everything going in Lando's favours. I don't know how you basically say that the last race and the last two races is going in Lando's favour, because if McLaren want Lando to win the World Championship easily, they're doing a terrible job of doing that. And obviously, he had the championship all but one. And you can argue that, yes, in a weird way, it's not too much loss for Lando. It screwed Oscar Piastri a lot more. There's no doubt in my mind that that's true. However, Lando's trying to win the World Championship. He's now got Max Verstappen behind him, who I think is going to be less beneficial for Lando having him behind, because obviously in terms of your teammate, you're normally similar to that position, and Lando is going to need people in between whoever wins the race, and that's, I guess, less likely that that's going to be Oscar and have people in between him and Lando. Whereas Max, if Red Bull rock up with a really quick car and are able to deliver a great race in Abu Dhabi, and other people get in the mix, obviously Max Verstappen could win the World Championship. So I don't think Lando is going to come away from that race and be like, that was good for me. No chance. Absolutely no chance that scenario. It piles even more pressure on him as well when the title was all but won. Yeah, he's still very, of course, likely that he can win this and is the favourite to win it. But I don't know how you spin this one to be like, that's a good thing for Lando.
No, I have a few things to say on this one as to why this did not benefit Lando. The first one is that the fumble put Lando on the back foot. P5 wasn't able to... It was a little bit slower than Oscar at the end of that stint before he pit, and then came out into that traffic. But the thing is, without the fumble, and they're on the normal strategy, Lando has an opportunity to beat Max Verstappen with an undercut into the next stop. Because, of course, if they all stopped on lap 8, then there's an opportunity to go 1 or 2 laps earlier or something. Actually, no, is there really, though? Because there wouldn't have been much flexibility, and there wasn't much flexibility. Either or. There was an opportunity for Lando to at least try and overtake Max Verstappen or put some pressure on. He was in the fastest package, the fastest car that weekend. Instead, he finished 4th, and could
have been worse.
Sorry?
And could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
Literally one clutch pit stop away from him being in like 8th or 9th as well.
Yeah, not that he would have probably finished there, and I think Alonso,
No.
even the track as it is, I think Lando would have passed the train.
For sure.
But that being said, there's no benefit being had here for Lando, and also it is not good that your teammate. I would rather, in Lando's situation, have Oscar Piastri 12 points behind me than Max Verstappen. One, because it's Max Verstappen, and I'd be scared of any dive bomb if he's within 3 seconds of me in the race in Abu Dhabi.
100%.
2, you come into Abu Dhabi and at least you know that Oscar is only going to be marginally quicker, probably. Whereas with Max Verstappen and Red Bull, you don't know. He could win by 30 seconds. We have no idea. And there's that unknown.
Or be not tanky
yeah,
one.
Yeah, exactly. Or not tanky one. You really don't know with Red Bull this year. So to have that sort of safety net of it being Oscar and knowing that you're going to be driving the same car, I think you would take that every day of the week. That being said, I still believe Lando is in the prime position here. And I've said that for the last 2 races, and his gap and his advantage keeps on getting smaller. And I've said this a few times, and I'll say it again. I genuinely do feel very sorry for Lando, because without this McLaren F-up in Vegas, he's world champion right now. But he's not, and he's got 2 drivers behind him that could win the World Championship. Utterly ridiculous, but hey, as a Formula 1 fan and lover of seeing just things unfold that are crazy in a Formula 1 World Championship, sign me up for Abu Dhabi.
Hell yeah.
P5, Joe Formula 6P. Every masterpiece has its cheap copy. I don't think Hulk was attempting the T-pose, but it's very close. And Joe, I like what you've done there. Very creative. So well done. P4, Elite Merchant. Championship fight headed into Abu Dhabi yet again. Time to resurrect him. Can you imagine the scenes if Michael Massey just turned up as a guest of a sponsor on the grid? I don't think Michael will be probably ever coming back to the Formula 1 paddock. Not at least. Actually, no, I think he was in Australia once, wasn't he? But I don't think he'll turn up next week somehow. P3, the Criz, life of a pessimistic Tommy. It's over, we're so back. It's over, we're so back. Look at that face that Tommy's making as well. Brilliant meme. I've just realised the Criz has back-to-back P3 and P2 memes. That does not happen all that often. Well done, the Criz, because this one is also a fantastic P1-related meme of me singing along. If you watch along, you know that I sing along to the F1 intro in order to help everybody sync up and be in synchrony. I'm trying to not use just in case you don't know what sync means, even though you probably do. To make sure everybody who's watching along at the same time as myself and Tommy, and the Charles Leclerc part gets a little bit more oomph. Now, before we get into P1, there is one more thing, and it is Ferrari related. Comes in from Marlek. The only time they were truly happy in an F1 car this season. But it's, it is sad to think about it, but that picture, it's happiness. I remember the laughs that they had in Miami. Wasn't that long before that Lewis Hamilton had a sprint win in China. And how much worse it got. And finally, the winner. The winner is Tim McDF588, the Max Plan. I receive P1, you receive flexibility. I love the fact, I know we had a similar meme template earlier, but this one's beautiful. I love the fact that you've included the flexibility part of this meme, because that was an insane team radio to sort of, I mean, they're never going to go, yes, we've made a mistake and you're now going to have to push to try and beat Max for the rest of the race. But the fact they said that they've all lost their flexibility in their strategy, which to me just shows that they were hoping for another safety car. What other reason would you not pit if they're then saying that the other teams have lost their flexibility? We've made the right call, is what essentially they're trying to seemingly say to their drivers. Mad. They're the fastest car. Why do you need flexibility with your strategy? Just pit. And I'm sure they know this by now. Right, that is it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the best reactions to the penultimate race of the season, the Qatar Grand Prix. I cannot wait for this championship decider. Again, I do feel sorry for Lando that it has come down to this, but because due to McLaren blunders in the last two races, he has not been crowned world champion. Had they not been disqualified in Las Vegas, and had Lando finished in a normal P3, maybe even P4, I haven't done the maths equation, he'd be world champion now going into Abu Dhabi, just without the disqualifications. What is he, 12 points clear? Yeah, he'd have had 18 points. Game over. But instead, this is the situation. I keep knocking my bottle. This is the situation we find ourselves in, and Lando's going to have to lock in to win this world championship. I firmly believe he can and still will, but stranger things have happened in this season. So thank you, everybody, for getting involved. Hashtag P1 if you want to get involved for the final race of the season. The winner gets some P1 merch, and we will see you soon. Lots of love. Bye.